Today I'm going to be making a sausage potato kale soup. I am using vegetables from the Healthcare Share program through the Vermont Youth Conservation Corporation. And this is a great meal, I think, right now. It is January. If you're watching this actively, it tends to be kind of sickness season. I know my family's had colds. I'm recently recovering, and so soup is a great thing to have. It's cozy, it's nourishing, it helps keep us hydrated. So that kind of inspired this. I was also looking for simplicity as energy levels are lower and you're wanting something nourishing, but you don't want to spend a lot of time making it. This can be a nice option for that. Okay, so to get started, I'm going to heat my pan up here. Medium heat and a tablespoon of olive oil. If you're using a sausage that has a good amount of fat in it, you can skip the oil. There's plenty of fat in your sausage. So the sausage I'm using today is going to be a chicken sausage. This is a pre-cooked chicken sausage. Alfresco is the brand that I'm using, and this is a sweet Italian style. You can use kind of whatever type of sausage that you like. The chicken sausage is a nice option from a health perspective because it's lower in saturated fat, tends to be lower in sodium, and so it's just a little bit leaner when we look at the nutrition value, but also gives you that really nice flavor of a sausage. So if you're using a sausage that has a casing on it, I just recommend pulling that off. This one, it's so thin, it really doesn't. And it was also in my freezer, so it's it kind of impacted the texture of the casing, so it really doesn't need to come off. So I'm just chopping this up. Again, if you're removing a casing, and especially if you're using a raw sausage, you might just be able to crumble it up. So again, this one is pre-cooked, so it's only going to need a couple minutes in the pan. If you're using a raw one, you'll want a little bit more time, and I'll adjust those in the recipe itself. All right, so we're going to get our sausage in. I'm using 2 here. Depending on how, the volume that you need, you could increase to about a pound of meat if you need that. Also, if you're vegetarian or vegan, you could use a vegetarian or vegan sausage option. If you're familiar with those, if you like those, you might just need to kind of adjust your cooking time depending on the type of product that you're using. All right, so we're going to let that kind of heat up, and then we're going to get our onion in. A small onion diced. I actually probably have more than I need right here. I just had that ready from earlier. And then I'm going to get my garlic minced up as well. This is fresh garlic, also from the farm. So to work with our garlic here, I like to just start by crushing it. Just be careful when you're pushing on your knife that you don't cut yourself, but it really crushes fairly well. And then you can just kind of mince it up. If it starts moving around, just kind of scrape it back together, scrape it off of your knife. And you can use 1, 2, 3 cloves of garlic, really depending on what you like. I don't tolerate a ton of garlic, so I have to be kind of careful with the volume that I use. But I think 1 clove will be okay in here. And the other thing I'm going to do to prep, I do already have my potatoes diced up. I'm going to prep my kale. So small head of kale here. I'm just pulling it off the stem. And then we'll chop it up. Kale is great in a soup because it really holds itself together. Whereas when you put spinach in a soup, it kind of dissolves, but kale really has that heartier texture and it holds up well. It's a great way for people who are a little skeptical of kale to start adding it in is by putting it in soups. It does tenderize nicely, and really the flavor just kind of blends. So I'm going to chop it up just so it's bite-sized. When you're eating a soup, you want to think about, does everything fit on my spoon? So if you have an item in your soup that is big, it's not going to be as easy to eat. So smaller pieces work well in soups. Okay. So again, raw sausage is going to take up to about 5 minutes. We really want to start the browning and the cooking process there. Since mine was already cooked, I'm ready to get my onion in. It's about a cup. And then this is going to cook for 5 minutes. We want to start cooking and softening the onion and bringing out those flavors. All right, our onions have been in for about 5 minutes. They're really tenderizing and bringing out some really nice aroma. And so we're going to get the garlic in now. And garlic can burn easily, so just it's one thing that you want to kind of keep moving. And we're just going to cook for about 30 seconds until we get the next ingredients in. If your pan is getting kind of really hot and sizzly, just turn your heat down a little bit. And I forgot to mention too, if you're using a sausage that has more fat in it, you can drain some of that fat off before you put your onion in. Okay. One optional ingredient in here is crushed red pepper. So if you like a little spice, this is really great. If you have people in your house sensitive to spice, I would leave it out, and then you can always add some hot sauce later on. But just about, crushed red pepper, a little goes a long way. So about like 1/8 of a teaspoon. Okay, and now our potatoes are going in. Starting to smell delicious. And now we're going to get 4 cups of broth in. Now I normally use like a chicken stock bouillon paste just because it's more affordable, but I was looking for something really quick and this box was on sale. And so another way to kind of help make cooking happen is to buy some shortcut items sometimes, even if they're not, the least expensive item. If it's going to get you cooking, sometimes that's really worth it. So that's what I got today. This is a 40% less sodium. If you can find the ones a little lower in sodium, that is usually a good option. The great thing about using a lower sodium product is you can always add salt at the end if you need a little bit more, but we can't take it away. And oftentimes the regular ones are quite salty. So we're going to get the 4 cups of broth in there. And then we're going to bring this up to a boil and kind of turn it down to get it at a simmer, basically. And we're going to simmer it for about 10 to 15 minutes until those potatoes are almost fully cooked. And at that point, we will get the kale in. All right, so my potatoes have been in for about 10 minutes. I just took one out to taste it. It's pretty tender. It needs a little longer, but my kale needs 5 minutes anyway. So I'm going to get the kale in. And we'll just stir that in. I did notice that as my soup was simmering away, it did get kind of a aggressive boil going, and if it boils too much, you're going to lose too much of the fluid. And so I just turned it down a little bit to get it at more of a simmer than a hefty boil. All right, so the kale's in there. I'm just going to put a 5-minute timer on. All right. And so the soup might be done as it is. Once it's done cooking the kale after 5 minutes, you can give it a taste and see, does it need any salt and pepper for flavoring? And also, is there anything else you want? Do you want a little bit more heat? Do you want to add a little more crushed red pepper or a splash of hot sauce? A squeeze of lemon might be nice. A squeeze of lemon in soup is actually a really neat trick because it can really brighten a lot of different soups. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, you could add a little bit of like a half and half or milk to give it a creamy taste and texture. That's kind of common with this style soup. So you need about a half a cup. It doesn't have to be a lot, but you could also try that as well. If you're unsure, what I like to do oftentimes is take out a little bit of the soup and add a little bit of one of those elements just to a small dish and see if you like it. So take out a half a cup, add a splash of milk or cream, or add a squeeze of lemon and see if you like that flavor and that texture, and then you can add it to the whole pot, rather than adding it in and realizing it's not your favorite. All right, so I'm gonna give that the 5 minutes and then we'll finish it off. All right, my kale's been in here for 5 minutes. Everything is looking and smelling delicious. Potatoes are tender. And so now just salt and pepper if you need it. Definitely taste your broth. I just tasted mine and it's plenty salty for me, so I'm not gonna add any additional salt. I'm gonna add a little bit of pepper. It's kind of all I have left in my pepper grinder. And then I'm gonna add a squeeze of lemon because I think it really is delicious in here. Kind of brightens it up. And this soup, I think, is better the next day as those flavors really sit and settle in the potatoes, almost like add a nice creaminess as their starches come out. So otherwise, you're done. I hope you give this a try. It's delicious, it's nourishing, it's comforting and cozy. And if you are dealing with colds right now, it might feel really nice to have a fresh bowl of soup.